Hi, I'm Craig McCormick. I'm the editor at large for Commercial Integrator magazine. We're here for our backstage Q&A with Chris Salazar-Mangrum. He's the director of integrated services for USAV Group. Hey, Chris, how are you today?
Doing well, Craig. Thank you for having me. I appreciate the opportunity.
Oh, thanks for joining me here today. I know you're relatively new to the USAV Group, and I thought this would be a good opportunity for folks in the industry to get to know you. So, Chris, you joined USAV a couple of months ago from PSA Security. You joined when KC Schwartz retired from USAV. Tell us a little bit about your career path, how you ended up getting to the point you are today.
Yeah, so that is correct. I had the opportunity to sit with Casey for quite a few months until he retired. Leading up to me taking over as director of integrated services and Chris Whitley moving up to the president role. So the information and the knowledge share from Casey was much appreciated. Very honored to have that time spent with him. How it, I guess, evolved was, within PSA Security. I run the IT department as well as oversee the project management of the organization. So through the acquisition, I was tasked with doing processes, procedures, systems, and documenting all of the processes that PSA has, as well as all the processes that USAV have. And from that, it really evolved into me stepping into the role to really drive the integration between the two companies, but then also take more of a leadership role within USAV. So it's been a good opportunity for me. It's been great working with Chris. Him and I work extremely well together, working on a lot of things at once. So it's always something, and it's always good productivity that we have, and we have a pretty good chemistry that's been working so far. So it's been a good jump. It's been a good jump, and still keeping the ties with PSA and making sure that the integration between the two companies is on the right path, which it has been, and it's been a really good success so far.
So you are still involved with PSA day to day. How's that kind of transition go?
Uh, yeah, so there's no lack of work, which isn't a bad thing, but it's nice because we just recently hired a project manager to really help with the day-to-day tasks. So I'll be more in an oversight role, help driving some of those, more of the strategic initiatives. But then, our project manager and our IT folks here, within PSA can still do the day-to-day. So it'll be nice for me. It'll also be nice, I think, just for the company itself. It's good that we're growing. We haven't got opportunity to hire more people. So that's good. So the balance has been really about 80-20, so 80% heavy on USAV. Probably keep that for about another year or so. The 20% with IT and the project management for PSA, just making sure that, again, it's a smooth transition. And whenever I make the jump over to USAV, 100% of the time it's in good hands, and everyone's happy. So that's the plan for now.
Okay, and how long were you with PSA before the USAV opportunity came along?
So I was with PSA Security for about 3 years. Did some really good things with automating some business processes, really on the back office. Also running their cybersecurity and putting in some vendors and creating offerings for the PSA security members. So that was a fun challenge that I still have, still oversee, and until we transition that out, I'll still be tasked with cybersecurity as an offering from PSA as a whole, which also crosses over to USAV.
Okay, and have you always been in the security realm, or is this kind of a new thing or was it a new thing, a few years ago when you joined PSA? Was that a new career path for you?
New industry. As far as the skill set itself in project management, it's something that I've been doing for quite some time. I have a PMP certification, also my MBA. So that was really on the operations side of the house is what my focus of my career path has been. A lot of the planning, the execution, post implementation. So So really, security side was a new industry, but the skills that I've acquired throughout my career have transferred over pretty seamlessly, and I'm seeing that as well with USAV. So it's still creating programs, implementing programs, and doing the implementation a little bit more of a higher touch with the dealers, which I love. One of my previous roles was with sales operations with in the telecom space, and I really enjoyed that interaction with the end users or some of the dealers, the ones who are installing the equipment. So I've liked that. I have a supply chain background as well, so dealing with our PMPs, our preferred manufacturer partners, the vendors. I've done that for over 15 years, so that's not new to me.
Okay, and is this the type of industry that you kind of pictured yourself getting into when you were younger? Is it kind of just you kind of stumbled into it a little bit, or how did that kind of work for you?
Yeah, well, younger, I thought I was going to be a professional baseball player. That didn't pan out. So this was actually this is a good alternative. My career path has taken me from the telecommunications industry to the beer industry to security to now pro AV. For me, it's refreshing. It's great to have really a melting pot of industries that although my skills are transferable, I get to really learn and appreciate newer things within different industries. So pro AV compared to security, compared to beer, compared to telecommunications, it has its own niche and nuances, which I appreciate. Infocom was the first one I went to. I was blown away and fascinated. It was hard not to get overwhelmed with all the cool stuff there. I love pro AV, just residential. So seeing it bigger, better, in the commercial space, it's even that much more exciting for me. So never thought I'd be in the AV industry per se, but I'm very happy with where my career path has taken me because of all the good people, the cool stuff. I mean, it's pretty simple actually to appreciate, in my opinion.
Okay, and how far did you make it in your baseball career? Was that a realistic possibility for you, or just kind of a dream like it was for me?
It was a dream. Ended at high school, and that was it. Started a family young, and wouldn't change anything for the world. But now I
Okay.
get a coach, so that's been my hobby as of late. Was the last 6-7 years is just coaching, my kids and their softball and their baseball, their youth programs. So that's just been a highlight.
Okay, and Chris, how old are you?
So I am 40. I think we had talked about, if I would make the 40 under 40 list. So I would technically be one of the oldest 40-year-olds if I did make that cut. But yeah, I'll be turning 41 here in September.
Okay, and are you married?
I am married. My lovely wife of 14 years, Michelle. She is a PE teacher and health education teacher. She's been teaching the same school for 12 years and has just recently jumped to a different school district. So she'll be encroaching on a new school, new path in her career, which she's excited for. We're all excited for it. So she keeps me and my diet really in check. So it's nice. She's a good partner.
And you mentioned your children. What are their names and how old are they?
So my oldest is Mia. She's actually a junior in college. So as I mentioned earlier, started a family young. So she is 20. And my middle girl is Charlotte, and she is 13, going into 8th grade. And then my youngest boy is Kingston, and he is 9, going into 4th grade. So all of them have a whole different spectrum of busyness that I love as a parent, and it's been fun.
And you mentioned you were a softball or baseball coach for your kids, or?
I am, yes, I am. Have been for quite some time. It's fun just teaching the game that I love. It's also a good instructional of life lessons, overcoming failures, how you respond to adversity. It's just those little things that, in my mind, baseball is a good platform to teach not only the skills and the game itself, but also just a lot of life lessons. And it's one of the sports that I've grown to, know and love. Now we're in the middle of the World Cup and soccer or football. I'm trying to get a better appreciation for that, which, skill and talent wise, hats off to those guys and gals. So it's been I just love sports too. So it's pretty easy for me to coach and watch and be a proponent of it.
Is there anything that's transferable from coaching a youth youth sports team to kind of helping people in business and kind of educating them? I know obviously it's a different age group, but is there any transfer there?
Patience. No, I think there's quite a bit. From the leadership perspective, you have the ability to really hone in on some leadership skills, the communications, the planning, especially within youth sports, and then transferring that over into business. It's how do you create the most impactful and productive team environment? How do you create that cohesiveness? And it's building the trust. I think part of successful teams and even with businesses, it's having a successful team put together by building the trust. That's what makes a good recipe for a successful team or business, in my opinion. So it's been I think a lot of transferable skills that different problems to solve or different strategies to plan, but in the end it's the same goal in mind of being a productive and trustworthy team in order to be successful.
Okay, and you mentioned obviously that you've been in a variety of different industries. Is there anything in any sort of commonality in terms of workflow or the way that you approach the job? Whether it's the beer industry, the telecom industry, the IT industry, the security industry, and now in obviously in AV. Is there anything that carries over in those different spaces?
Yeah, I think fundamentally it's people, processes, and systems. Each industry has that set of a foundation, if you will, that component. So it's really starting to understand and then appreciate and then knowing how to either improve it or work within that foundation of the people, process, and system. So it's really taking a step back. It's interviewing people, talking with folks. It's understanding the systems and how they interact, how they interface, what are the impacts to the customer, what can we do better. It's being open to feedback. But at the crux of it for me, it's been just those three components for me to really understand and not only apply my skill sets, but also understand what my role is in the business in order to make an impact.
Okay, and I know obviously you've been in the AV side of things for just a couple of months. How's the immersion into the industry been for you so far? How have you kind of gotten yourself educated and started to learn a little bit more about what's been going on in this space?
So it's actually been reading a lot of Commercial Integrator. I won't lie. Infocom was a big help with learning really the industry itself. So some of the products, a lot of the people, what's up and coming, and tapping into Casey's knowledge base was huge for me. And then basically shadowing Chris Whitley on a daily basis. I often joke with him, like, I feel like I'm just that little brother just tagging along, tell me more. So it's being a sponge. But our dealer advisory council has been very helpful. A lot of the PMPs that we deal with have been very helpful. So the learning for me has been great. The people have been really open to give me the information that I'm looking for. But I have a ton more to learn, and I get that. I'm patient. I think I mentioned that with some of the sports stuff, but understanding that it is a process, trusting the process, and each day that I'm learning something different or new is just another day that I'm getting better in my role and able to offer more to USAV and its members.
Have you been in the USAV role long enough to see any similarities or differences between the security side of PSA and now the USAV side?
Yeah, from just the integrators or the dealers, some commonalities there. We do have some integrators who play in both AV as well as the security space. But I've also seen a good opportunity for those that don't have that, within their business model, that shared integration, but a way to team up and have them bid on joint projects, which has been pretty fun to see. That's been fascinating, just how open the AV and the security industry folks are in working with each other. For a common goal, if they have somebody within the same region that there's some similar work. So there are some similarities, I think, in terms of the integrators. The vendors or the manufacturers, slightly different, but there are some crossover with a few of the products. You'll see that with some of the offerings of cameras, as an example, microphones, wire. So some of those commonalities, we'll see crossing over, but not a lot of channel conflict at this point. And I think both sides have done a great job integrating the business models, but keeping really the true essence of the models unique to the companies, if that makes sense. So the USAV's business model is a little different than PSA's, and there's no really big push to combine or crash them together. If it's working well, how can we keep it working well, but then leverage some of the other offerings that each company has that the other might not. So that's been a great marriage in terms of filling in some gaps, and it's been great, I think, as a whole, from PSA as a whole, to have the ability to offer a great solution on the security side and a great solution on the AV side. So it's been, in my mind, a great decision for us to move forward with that M&A.
Okay. I imagine there are opportunities, particularly when it comes to cybersecurity for PSA integrators to work with USAV integrators. Is that something you guys are talking about or dealing with, or thinking about ways to make that happen? Maybe not force it, but kind of encourage the two sides to think about opportunities like that.
Yeah, I think so. And what I noticed on the security side was really the eagerness and interest was to raise the awareness of cybersecurity. And a lot of the cybersecurity within the security industry, it was really brought to a head with some breaches from IoT devices such as cameras. And once that happens, there's a big buzz throughout the industry. And what are folks doing, thought leaders such as PSA, what are they doing to help either solve for it or increase awareness? And so at the time, I want to say maybe 3 years ago, Bill Bozeman, the chairman, he really started beating the drum and being a huge advocate for increasing the awareness of cybersecurity. How can PSA at the time help the integrators and either come up with solutions for them in-house or to resell to their end users? So that's really taken some time to get traction and build that inertia, but we're starting to see it now on the security side, and the industry is really open and accepting to that. And I see the opportunity, at least from the AV perspective, not a lot, just from what I've seen, to offer the end users from a cybersecurity play, if you will, for an AV company or an integrator to offer as a solution to their customers. But we do have the ability to at least raise the awareness, talk about what are you doing internally, and then what are you doing as well for your end users to give them that protocol or that comfort that what you're installing for them, if it touches the network, is secured. So we've talked about how to introduce that, and we'll come up with some ways, possibly just starting with raising the awareness, not using any scare tactics, but it's just, here's the reality of it, and here's something we should start thinking about. So PSA has done a good job in the past building out some playbooks, and a cybersecurity committee. And I think it's just leveraging the resources that we have and introducing those to the AV side of the house might be just, one of the first starts. And then from there, we'll see how it goes.
I would imagine that that's an area where maybe you've seen a fair bit of difference. You mentioned that the PSA integrators are, fairly far along when it comes to thinking about and focusing on cybersecurity type of issues, and maybe the AV integrators that you've heard about or dealt with maybe aren't quite as far along on that.
It's hard to say. There's some that are further along, even on the AV side, that I've talked with some of the dealers that have that cybersecurity play, if you will. But really, when you think about convergence of industries, it's really the IT industry coming into security at the time, and now also overlapping with AV. So if you think of the Venn diagram, what are the shared commonalities between IT, security, and AV? It's really cybersecurity, and that's really at the crux of what we're talking about and what we're trying to at least raise the awareness of. And again, some businesses are going to be further along, and some businesses are going to just say, "I don't understand it," and we'll see that on both sides. Is what I'm thinking. That hey, if it doesn't impact us or we don't have a way to make money on it, don't care. Or it's this is a big deal. Let's care and let's pay it some attention. And oh, by the way, is there a way that we can actually monetize on it? Which is what PSA has been trying to help with their integrators do in the past year and a half.
Now, obviously, you mentioned that you don't want to force these sides together, and I can certainly understand that you don't want to make them feel like they have to work together. But are there opportunities that you see or types of projects that you see where an AV integrator and a security integrator would make sense to work together, that maybe you guys are, I don't know, encouraging or talking about or emphasizing, that sort of thing?
Yeah, we have seen that actually. Some big projects on the East and West Coast where there have been some partnering activity going on, and they're bidding on a big job and getting big jobs. And once they identify who's the prime and what each other's roles are within the bid, then with that aside, and once it's figured out, then it's been great. It was just a simple introduction almost of, here's someone down the hall from you who plays in the AV space or security space, and by the way, they're part of the PSA and USAV family, and here's an introduction. You guys take it from here. And it's actually, we've had a couple of success stories just recently, as a matter of fact. So it's been working well.
And I would imagine that having those two capabilities together might lead to some opportunities that alone that a security integrator might not get, or an AV integrator might not get.
I would think so. Yeah, I think it's just creating options. Once you have some options to choose from, then it just makes everyone better, in my opinion. So it's really the opportunity for someone to have an optional service offering, if you will. If it's going to be a partnering activity on an AV or security play, then that's great for business. I mean, that's great for our dealers and our integrators to grow.
And do you play a specific role or a particular role in kind of helping those security and AV integrators find each other, or kind of realize that they are close to each other and geographically, or kind of philosophically, or anything like that?
Yeah, me personally, no. What I would end up doing is pointing them to the right folks, either within the PSA side of the house, or if it's on the USAV integrator, then pointing someone within our sales team or whoever is inquiring. But we have, at least on the PSA side, a national deployment program, which really has a robust system for the AV as well as the security integrators to document what they're capable of, where they participate and do work in, their certifications, and that's managed extremely well by one of our in-house PSA reps. And with that, I mean, that's just one tool, I think, within the tool belt. And other than our sales team, outside and inside sales teams, just working with us at USAV, asking who do we have in a certain region, and then making those introductions. That's really my role, is just helping make introductions. So playing matchmaker, if you will.
And are you to the point on the USAV side where you're thinking about, well, I'd like I'd love to see this work differently or try this a little bit differently than has been done in the past? Is that anything that you're kind of implementing? You're putting your stamp on USAV, anything like that?
Yeah, not in a methodical approach. I'm not doing a cannonball into the pool quite yet. What I want to do now is just really understand the current state of the business and how previous processes and systems work, and then from there, once we get into our rhythm and we're on a good pace with work and communications, Chris Whitley and I, then it's okay. What do we want to do to elevate to the next step? What do we need to improve upon? It's getting the feedback. What's working well, what needs improvement, and then really prioritizing our strategies to make sure that they fit within our core competencies and our goals. That it makes sense to then change or modify or introduce new, or just keep the same. So it's a methodical approach.